Hey there, it's Reverend Jay coming to you from my home in San Francisco. I want to invite us today to reflect on beauty, more specifically, beauty that heals. See, it's so easy to focus on the darkness in life, and yet we know with God, there's light. A light that, if we choose to go to it, is so life-giving and so good. But it's a choice that we have to make. Now, there's a quote that I once heard that was once said by Florence Nightingale. Never underestimate the healing effects of beauty. We all go on a journey in life that invites us into the ups and downs of living. Most of it is good. Well, that is if we choose to look for what's right in the world. But beauty is one of those things that, well, in the Episcopal Church, we value. It's one of the reasons why our churches look the way they do. Come onto the St. Matthew's campus and you'll immediately see it. And how we pay attention to upkeeping everything that is beautiful, because it reminds us so much about God. It is true that beauty is healing, and we could find it in the ways that we create inside and out. But it's not just in the church. Take a look at our streets. This is a tree that's right outside of my house. And I live on a boulevard, which is a place that, well, essentially is lined up by trees. And right now, most of the leaves are gone, but it's still quite beautiful, especially if you catch it at the right time of day. It's also one of the reasons why we put flowers inside of the church. Imagine a church without flowers. Wouldn't seem right. But it's also one of the reasons why, especially when times get hard or we lose loved ones, we put flowers. And it reminds us of life and of love. It reminds us that sometimes we don't understand everything that's happening around us. And these are the moments where we have to go to the place of the heart. Place of goodness, that place of light. Beauty heals. Flowers are just one example of beauty, but think about the words that we say. Words can heal. Words make a difference because it's a reflection of our heart. At the inauguration last week, there was a poet, Amanda Gorman, and she shared words that were absolutely beautiful because it reminded us again of who we are as a nation, who we are as a people together. So I wanted to share her words with us and invite us to reflect on beauty that heals.
Mr. President, Dr. Biden, Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, Americans, and the world. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first. We must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it, because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain: if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the west. We will rise from the wind-swept northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked south. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
Now, in the Episcopal Church, beauty is one of the things that we highly value. I think the reason why is because it reminds us so much about God and God's great love. Beauty heals, and I believe that is so true. It's kind of like when we clean up our room. When it was messy, well, did it feel right? Well, maybe sometimes it does, but when you clean it, boy, it does change energy, doesn't it? That's what we mean. Beauty does heal. It makes room to remind you of what you got. A friend of mine once said, if you want to heal the world, clean up your room first. Now, I know that sounds kind of weird, but think about it. Now, I know that sometimes that's hard to clean your room, but when you do, you might be surprised. Beauty heals. We are reminded that there is always light, but we have to be brave enough to see it so that we can be it. So my friends, look for what's right in the world. Be the blessing that you are. Live into God's great love. Beauty heals.